Hey everyone, and welcome. Think of this as our fun little study group for PP 5361, Theory and Management of Public Service Organizations. Today we're jumping right into Chapter 9 of the textbook, Managing Human Behavior in Public and Nonprofit Organizations, to talk about something we all deal with every single day, effective communication. We're going to look at why it breaks down, and most importantly, what we can do to fix it.
You know, this classic line from Cool Hand Luke, it just perfectly sums up how high the stakes really are. Because when communication fails, it's not just a simple misunderstanding. No, things can spiral into chaos, relationships get damaged, and honestly, the whole process of getting anything done can just completely fall apart.
So let's get right into a perfect and frankly kind of painful example from the text involving Mary Lou and John. Mary Lou's a manager, and she sees that her best employee, John, is just totally fried. He's overworked. So with the best intentions, she tells him, hey, maybe you should take a break. But John, who's already stressed and maybe a little insecure, he hears something totally different. He hears a threat. He thinks she's trying to get rid of him. And the result? He works even harder, risking complete burnout. A simple, caring message completely backfired.
And that really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? Communication should be simple. I mean, I talk, you listen. You talk, I listen. But if it were really that easy, why does it go so wrong so often?
Well, in theory, this is how it's supposed to work. You've got this classic model here where a sender kind of packages up a message, sends it out, and a receiver unpacks it. Then feedback comes back to make sure everything was understood. It looks so neat, so mechanical, a perfect system, right?
But here's the thing. If it were really just this simple, we'd all be communication experts by now. But we're not. So what's the big missing piece in this perfect little diagram? Well, the missing piece is us. It's the human element.
Okay, take a good look at this image. It illustrates the problem perfectly. What do you see? Do you see a young woman looking away over her shoulder? Or do you see an older woman, kind of in profile? The crazy thing is, both images are right there in the exact same lines. Two people can stare at the exact same piece of information and see two completely different things. And that's not a failure of the information, it's just how our brains work. And that right there is a perfect example of what we call a frame of reference. See, we don't just absorb information like a computer. We filter everything through our own unique lens. Our past experiences, our mood that day, our attitudes, our beliefs. This is exactly why Mary Lou said take a break and John heard you're getting pushed out. They were looking at the same situation through two totally different frames of reference. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Where does this whole thing actually fall apart? We're going to look at how that gap between what we intend to say and how someone else interprets it can create huge problems, especially at work. Check out this table. It's amazing at showing this gap in real time. Look at that first one. The manager says, there's a position open that might give you valuable experience. What they meant was, hey, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to grow. But what did the employee hear? They're trying to push me out. Whoa, that is a massive and pretty dangerous disconnect right there. So why do these breakdowns keep happening? Well, it usually comes down to a few common barriers. Sometimes we use filtering. We spin the message to make ourselves look better. We run into trouble with semantics, where the same word means different things to different people. We get defensive, just like John did, the second we feel threatened. And we all have this natural tendency toward evaluation. We immediately start judging what the other person is saying instead of just trying to understand it first.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on the problem. Now for the fun part. How do we actually fix this? We've got this amazing toolkit we can use to become much better communicators. Let's break down the two most important tools you're going to find inside.
The first tool is called supportive communication, and the goal here is pretty simple, but it's powerful. You want to get your message across clearly, yes, but you want to do it while strengthening your relationship with the other person, or at the very least, not damaging it. It's all about building bridges, not burning them. Let's zero in on what might be the single most important rule here. Be problem-oriented, not person-oriented. I mean, just feel the difference here. Your laziness is the problem. That's a direct attack. It's an evaluation of their character, and I guarantee you they're going to get defensive. But let's work together to improve our work. That's completely different. It focuses on a shared goal. It's an invitation to solve a problem together.
Okay, so that's tool number one for sending better messages. But what about receiving them? This brings us to the second, and you could argue the most critical tool in our kit, active listening. It's often called the most used but least understood skill for managers.
So just how much do managers use it? Think about this.
About 60% of their communication time is spent just receiving messages. In other words, listening. That is more than speaking, writing, and reading combined. So if you're spending more than half your day doing just one thing, you'd think we'd want to be pretty great at it, right?
So how do we get better? Well, active listening isn't just about being quiet while someone else talks. It's a real effort. It means you actually have a purpose for listening. It means you have to suspend that immediate urge to judge. You fight off distractions. And, man, this is the hardest part for a lot of us. You actually wait for them to finish before you start planning your reply. But most importantly, it all comes together with one final, crucial step.
And that step is using what I like to think of as a magic phrase. What I understand you to be saying is, when you say this, you do two incredible things at once. First, it forces you to actually listen and process what they said, not just wait for your turn to talk. And second, it gives them the chance to say, yes, that's it, or no, not quite, what I meant was. It closes that dangerous gap between their intent and your interpretation. It's a total game changer.
I want to leave you with this final thought, because it kind of turns everything we've talked about on its head. We usually think of communication as just one of the things that happens inside an organization. But a much deeper way to look at it is that communication is the very thing that creates the organization. Every single conversation, every email, every meeting is actively building the reality, the relationships, and the culture where you work. So the real question isn't just, are we communicating well? It's, what kind of organization are we creating every single time we speak?